We are so excited and thankful that you chose USI as your campus of choice. Come here and discover your possibility.
University of Southern Indiana President Ron Rochon, about as energetic and enthusiastic a leader as you'll ever see. His path to higher education, it started on Rochon's home turf on the south side of Chicago, where he grew up with dreams of becoming a veterinarian. He's channeling that boyhood passion for animals and agriculture into what might be next for USI.
Bring the intellectual development and know-how for farmers to continue to advance their craft is something I find to be extremely important. So finding ways in which we can develop something here uniquely at USI in support of the state is something I'm very much interested in.
Get to know Ron Rochon, the University of Southern Indiana's first African-American president, his dad's influence, his love for USI, and how agriculture could play a role in what's next for the university. My guest on this week's Business and Beyond podcast. The University of Southern Indiana's Screamin' Eagles fight song, a school led by a man with a passion for people, animals, and education. Ron Rochon has come a long way from his childhood growing up on the south side of Chicago. He earned his bachelor's degree at Tuskegee University, a master's at the University of Illinois, before arriving at USI, where he has served as president since 2018. The school's first black president has raised money, revamped curriculum, and elevated USI athletics to Division I status. And I'm really pleased to be joined on the podcast this week by USI's president, Dr. Ron Rochon. And Ron, thanks for taking the time to join me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
So you were named president. It's been just over 5 years now. Prior to that, you were there at USI for 8 years. So you certainly have a good feel for the university and its mission. And I personally, think USI is one of the, I don't know if I want to say great kept secrets of our state, but from a tuition standpoint, from an education standpoint, you can go on down the list. USI's got a lot going on down there in Southwest Indiana. Give folks who may not know a thumbnail description of the University of Southern Indiana.
Gary, first of all, thank you again. I always describe USI as not only one of the best kept secrets in the Midwest, but also it is a campus of care. We are a campus intentionally outreaching to our student body. We have faculty and staff members who are accessible. They know their students by name. We're intimate enough where we can actually, really engage with one another as a community, but also, not too small where, you're on top of each other, if you will. It's a campus that offers over 130 different academic programs. We are known, as you already know, across the state, with regard to engineering, health professions, the arts. The list just goes on. And I know you're going to cover this, but we are now a Division I institution as well. I'm going to women's volleyball tonight. We're playing Eastern Illinois. Go Screaming Eagles.
Go Screaming Eagles. That's right. And I do want to talk about that in a minute because that was a big move to be sure. But you talk about the enrollment on campus. I think enrollment numbers just came out. Your overall enrollment increased. I think you're up to just under 10,000 students.
Yeah, so, I'll tell you right now, this has been one of our first semesters in a long time where we are actually seeing an upward trajectory with regard to enrollment. I'm so pleased. This is both at the graduate and undergraduate levels, which is exciting for us. One of the things that we're focusing on right now, like many campuses around the nation, is retention. I tell people that, it's a blessing to have students, have families choose your campus. But what do you do when they get there? How do you receive them? How do you support them? How do you engage them? How do you retain them? How do they matriculate successfully is an important piece with regard to student success, the overall student experience. This is what we're focused on as an institution. I take great pride in that, to know that our faculty and staff are working together as a unit to make sure that when we partner with your family, when we say you are accepted to USI, you are a full-fledged citizen on this campus, we expect you to work hard, but know that we're working hard as well to make sure that you're successful.
I know something you've certainly been intentional about too is diversity. And I think the number in terms of those enrollment numbers. I believe they're record numbers in terms of students of color and international students as well. And I know that a special meeting for you because you're the first African American president at USI.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it is. It's a huge point for us. The Southwest Indiana has had a very interesting history with regard to folks of color, as we all know. But finding ways in which we as a community provide this important narrative about receptivity to all people is something we take great pride in. Students across our campus are working hard to build relationships, build real authentic friendships. Having international students on our campus only builds that opportunity in many, many ways. I feel fundamentally that a campus with international presence is a strong university campus. A campus that has domestic students of color is a strong university campus. Watching those students do things that many people who are my contemporaries did not do very successfully or very effectively, watching us make sure that we're intentional with those efforts of building those relationships is important moving forward without question.
As you look, Ron, I know we had our Engage Indiana series. Actually, we've done it twice. The very first time for that event, which was a great success, you were on the panel there. And I will always remember in talking with you, and we were talking about Southwest Indiana, and you're like, why not Evansville? Why not Southwest Indiana? So you mention it with passion and with pride, and you mentioned the history there. As you look at Evansville and more broadly Southwest Indiana, talk about how you've seen change and evolution and how Southwest Indiana, in your view, is positioned to compete.
I would inform people to, first of all, come and visit. I remember I had gone to Chicago, where I grew up, to actually ask members of the public school system to allow us to bring their children, to our university. And immediately, Gary, I'm just being, people are pumping the brakes, Mm-hmm. Evansville, why would we go to Evansville? And they had these kinds of, really, I would say, historical constructs in their minds about safety and about inclusion. And so one of the things that I said we'll do is, listen, we'll host you all for an evening and give you full reign of our campus, give you full reign of our city. And that was the most exciting piece because they began to discover themselves that this place was not only friendly and responsive and receptive, but we offer so many other opportunities. And so this is what I'm telling my colleagues and friends across the state. Come down to Southwest Indiana, come and visit Evansville and see that the third largest city in the state of Indiana is growing. It is developing. It has so many new offerings. Businesses are here, they're thriving, and relationships are developing. And I got to tell you, I'm really proud of Mayor Winnicky, his administration over the many years, all the work that he has done. E is for everyone has become a real mantra that we're living by, not just a slogan, but something we truly believe in.
Now, USI too, I know as I've witnessed, as we have covered things in Southwest Indiana, is intentional too about engaging. You talk about businesses locating, businesses expanding, economic development. But in USI, you feel it's important that USI is a part of that effort.
I'll tell you, even during the pandemic, we were very intentional. My provost and I, it was Dr. Mohammed Qayyum. He and I, we got on Zoom calls, and some of the meetings we actually were able to do in person, but we reached out to at least 35 different CEOs within the region to talk to them about what it is that they needed from USI, what our graduates were bringing to the bottom line for their organizations, for their businesses. What were we missing? What other attributes could we actually infuse within our curriculum? What could we bring to students to make them more ready, more prepared to lead? And also, what else could we do to partner more effectively with them? That feedback, those notes that we took were just amazingly, strong breadcrumbs for leading us to new directions. I will share this with you too. It was heartwarming to hear CEO after CEO identify USI as a strong partner, identify USI's graduates as beyond competent and beyond skilled, but truly strong in the area of leadership, providing great stewardship within their organizations. And so I'll tell you, I really believe that it is incumbent upon me to learn more about what the needs are and also to teach the faculty and staff here so we can become more responsive to those needs as we serve the state, as we serve this region, of course, but as we serve the state and beyond. That is our job. That is our mantra. That is what we live by and what we're proud of.
Talk about business. Certainly education, higher education is a business, always
Yes.
has been a business, but nowadays talk about the competitive landscape. You hear so much about, the enrollment cliff and the fight, as you mentioned, to get students, but also retain students. That competitive landscape, how challenging is it? And what do you do or need to do as a president, USI as university, to be competitive in this environment?
Wow, that's a huge question, and it's a real issue, as you already know. I'll tell you, one of my colleagues, Dr. Shelley Blunt, she's our interim provost right now. Her son, Ben, brilliant young man. This kid, I love him. I just love him to life. He actually had 80 different universities approaching him about coming to their school.
Wow.
Strong student, strong candidate, well prepared. But think about that, 80 different universities, going after this kid. He lives in Southwest Indiana. And so when you talk about competition, I mean, we really see other institutions in our backyard that we've never seen before. The digital outreach that's available for students now is unmatched in many ways if campuses are not resourced well and are prepared to actually compete in that landscape. And then, oh, by the way, the other piece is this. What are you doing that's uniquely distinctive to make yourself a bit more brighter in the sky, if you will, for these 18-year-olds? I am trying to convince an 18-year-old that this is a space for you to come and thrive and succeed. This is a brand new, very uncharted kind of competition that you speak of, and it's real.
Yeah. You mentioned brightness in the sky. It made me think about something I've read that USI is up to, and that's the solar eclipse. Next year, and I know folks around the state are making plans to do some things around it, but April 8th of next year, the campus there is really going to be a direct path, right, of the solar eclipse. And you're really going to promote that. It's going to be you got 1,400 acres of unobstructed views, 3 minutes at 2:02 in the afternoon. We'll go dark for 3 minutes. So it's going to be a big party down there, right?
It is. If you recall the last eclipse, man, our quad was filled. Community members, high schoolers, middle schoolers, elementary school kids, teachers, families. So we are prepared even more, with regard to this next solar palooza, if you will. We are excited about having folks on our campus, really, bringing the community together, but also just understanding the significance of what this means, for our nation and also for this particular day. I'm excited about USI hosting this solar eclipse right here on campus proper. Yes, sir.
Yeah. As you look at, again, increasing profile of the university, I can't think of too many things that perhaps have been more helpful to that process than the move from Division II athletics to Division I, right?
Yeah. I tell you right now, this was a significant lift for the campus. We vetted the university and the community really, really well. And I'm excited to tell you that we are now beyond year one of our probationary period. As you already know, there's a 4-year period where you cannot compete nationally for championships, but we can compete within our own conference. Our student body is excited. I'll tell you right now, as I mentioned before, I'm going to the women's volleyball game in just a few hours. It has been, it's been wonderful, to have faculty and staff and students and alumni just take pause, watching our student athletes compete on ESPN2 or Plus, excuse me. Last season, Gary, we were actually invited on ESPNU not once but twice. Giving us a national platform so folks can actually begin to say, now where is USI? Right. I know where it is. I understand. Oh, by the way, guess what? I go there. I'm proud of this institution. I'm proud of the legacy and the academics that they're producing. Let me say one other thing with regard to Division I. If you look at our students right now with regard to academic performance, retention, and successful matriculation, our student athletes lead the pack in this category. They are scholar athletes, not student athletes, scholar athletes doing amazingly well.
Yeah. And when you talk about the impact of Division I athletics from a recruitment standpoint, it's got to be a huge bump there in terms of your efforts to attract those best and brightest minds from not only the region, but from around the country.
Let's be honest with each other. You and I both know this. When you tell your friends where you're going to school, you want them to light up as well. Not just you lighting up, want them to light up, right? There's a pride point with regard to that letter of acceptance, with regard to attending, with regard to successful matriculation, with regard to walking across that stage and shaking the president's hand, because I shake every hand. I'm smiling and I'm proud. I'm proud of the work that they have done with our faculty and staff to reach this amazing moment.
Yeah. You talk about the process, though. I mean, it was a heavy lift. Not an easy thing to do, to make that application and make that a successful endeavor. What was the thought process as you went through that to decide, do we really want to do this? What are the benefits, the pros and cons? What was that process like?
I got to tell you, the best news of this is that we were invited, number one, to join the Ohio Valley Conference. When I met with the commissioner, she and I sat down with John Mark Hall, our athletic director, and she brought a couple of the colleagues. And Gary, the thing that blew me away is how much she knew about our university campus, about our academic performance, about our infrastructure, about our facilities. She had actually gone out to the community and identified key people to talk to about our relationship with the community. All of these factors meant a great deal to the OVC. And so I'll tell you right now that it was an opportunity for me to come back, report to my board of trustees, identify a conversation that we can have about this possibility, and begin to lay out a method that would be beneficial for this institution with transparency and also with great acumen, understanding exactly what we would be walking into, and then also understanding the process of what we would need to do for the next 4 years as well. There was a lot of major decisions that went into this. As you can imagine, our trustees voted unanimously, including our student trustee, to move in this direction. But I'm really proud of the process that we implemented that involved many, many constituent groups all across this university campus and the community outside as well.
Yeah, I think the Ohio Valley Conference tournament has been in Evansville, right down at the Ford Center.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm looking forward to us advancing in that tournament.
Get in there, yeah.
In a way which my colleague presidents will say, Ron, no more.
That's good. Hey, and because I know Evansville in the region has really looked at using sports and leveraging sports as an economic development tool, youth sports, as well as events there at the Ford Center. I've got to assume that USI's elevation to Division I can potentially, enhance or add to that whole sports strategy in the region.
Without question, we all understand the significance of basketball in the state of Indiana, both women's and men's. And so having the Ford Center, having members of other communities from Kentucky, from Illinois, from Tennessee, from Ohio, visiting and coming here to participate, not only in a tournament, but also, witnessing what's happening in Evansville, looking at our downtown, enjoying our restaurants and our views going along the Ohio River. All of these are just amazing sound bites that open the eyes and the minds of families and say, listen, when we take a weekend for a holiday, why not go to Evansville? And so it's fun. It's amazingly humble. It's a humbled opportunity for USI to be a part of that equation. And that's what we are. We are a significant part of of Evansville's story.
And we're going to go to break here in a minute, but I do want to mention, because you've mentioned it to me, how grateful you are at the support that USI, that the institution is getting from Indiana as a whole, from the state as a whole, that support.
Yes, sir. I tell you, this biennial period alone, we received the highest appropriation in the history of our university. This occurred because of the faculty and staff that provide stories to me and my colleagues as we go to Indianapolis, meet with members of the General Assembly. Listen, it is important that we are good stewards of resources, but also we need to be stewards of impact. Making sure that the taxpayer, they are understanding exactly how those dollars are impacting the state, return on that investment, helping our students leave here and become phenomenal citizens that are contributing to the well-being of our great state.
Much more with University of Southern Indiana President Dr. Ron Rochon. When we return, we'll talk about Ron Rochon, the early years growing up and his path to Southwest Indiana. That's when the Business and Beyond podcast returns.
PNC Bank, we're committed to making a difference in the lives of our customers and communities by helping them move forward financially. As a Main Street bank, we try to do right by our customers with every encounter. Our local teams offer personalized financial advice to help guide you in making the best decision. We're proud to be part of your community. PNC Bank. See how we can make a difference for you at pnc.com. Copyright 2022, the PNC Financial Services Group, Inc., all rights reserved.
Welcome back to the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. My guest this week is the president of the University of Southern Indiana, Dr. Ron Rochon. And Ron, I want to talk a little bit about your path to Evansville. You are a Chicago native, right? Talk about growing up in Chicago.
Born and raised in Chicago. I am a proud product of the South Side of Chicago. My mom and dad, they raised me and my younger sister, my younger brother, in this little house that we called a home. And I'm blessed, to be a product of that community. I miss it dearly, but I am truly, if you like me, it's because of Chicago. It's because of my family, without question.
That's great. We'll talk about the experience of growing up in Chicago back in the day and what that was like. Were you were a sports guy, academic guy, music guy? What was your what was your vibe back then?
I was a shy guy. That's what I was.
You were a shy guy. Now that's
I really
hard
was.
to believe.
It's unbelievable for folks, because I run my mouth so much now. But I was extremely shy. My mother could predict the time the door would unlock every single day, just minutes after classes were over. I came home, Johnny on the spot Ronnie on the spot every single day. I grew up in a household with a police officer. My father was a Chicago cop, for his life in raising us. My mother worked lots of different jobs to help ends meet. I'm the oldest of three. And my father, he ran a pretty tight ship, Gary. You did not play with Alphonse Rochon. He was a very serious-minded human being, and he held compliance at the top of the shelf every day with regard to our behavior. I told folks, it's funny because I tell folks, my father was extremely stoic and had very few words to say, and he had two emotions. My father was either pissed or real pissed. So I just will never forget, that Mr. Rochon, he held the line. And I'll tell you right now, quite honestly, I'm thankful for my father. I love my father dearly. He's still alive. My mother's in heaven. My father lives in Arizona now. He is always complaining about the heat, but he's enjoying his life. He does yard work to this day. And wow. I am just thankful for this man being an example of what manhood looked like for me, what hard work looked like for me. And also what discipline looked like for me. He was my example, without question.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about role models. Sounds like, to be certain, your dad certainly was a role model.
He really was. He, like I said, I didn't understand why he did not talk much until I became an adult and began to understand how tough his job really was.
Yeah.
And doing that job and keeping us safe and keeping us healthy. And listen, I'll tell you right now, I went to Catholic school. I did, my brother and my sister did, and now that I'm a father, I know for sure we could not afford it. My father and mother made sacrifices for us to go to this school, both elementary and high school. And, when you think about the kinds of sacrifices your parents make for you to get where you are today, you don't really understand that until you become a parent yourself.
Yeah.
And so when I tell you, man, I listen, Allison and Alphonse Rochon, man, they are my hero and shero. They truly are the reason why I sit here today in this role as president. I'm thankful for their love and their concern, and most importantly, their non-negotiable attitudes toward education. My parents never made college an option for me or my siblings. It was not up for discussion. They were not able to go. They didn't have the resources to go themselves. I was the first one in my family to go to college. But my mom and dad made it very clear that you want to live in this house, you want to inhale this oxygen, you will go to college. So I'm very fortunate, sir.
So is that kind of what led you on the path to education, or when did you kind of figure out that was your? It's a great question. It's a long story, but I'll give you a soundbite. I wanted to be a veterinarian. That's all I wanted to do. Really? Yeah.
Oh God, I love animals to this day, but it's all I wanted to do with my life. And I went to school. I majored in animal sciences not once but twice. I did at Tuskegee University, a historically Black college in Alabama. And then I did a master's in reproductive physiology and animal sciences at Illinois in Champaign.
And for those who don't know, those are very challenging fields. I mean, that's
it's nothing but science. That's all it is. It is science everywhere. And I miss science. I love science. I became a bench scientist when I got my master's degree, and I went to
really wow.
Oh yeah, I worked at the University of Chicago. I was actually applying all the work that I was doing with rabbits and pigs and chickens, with humans as it pertained to fertilization and having a child. And so working with docs at the University of Chicago Hospital, and it just changed my life, opening new doors for me. But I ended up going back to Illinois years later after working at Chicago, and I decided to take a path into educational policy. I fell in love with education while I was working and while I was living, back at home in Chicago. And I really believe back then and to this day that educational opportunity transforms lives. It gives you the door and the key, to seeing what your purpose and what your passion really is and what it could be and how you can serve others. And so when I tell you that this is my calling, being in this role, working with faculty and staff every day, meeting with students, walking across this campus, shaking their hands and listening to what they want to do to serve our nation and the globe, my optimism is so extremely high every single day because of these students that I'm blessed to work with on a daily basis myself.
Yeah. Jude, it's been one of the challenges for Indiana is that educational attainment. And, a lot of people working on that now to get Indiana to that goal. I think it's, 2/3 of the population with, post-high school education. That's what you're talking about. Do you think culturally the state of Indiana is beginning to realize what you just talked about there, and that is education opening the key to the future?
I hope so. I really do. I fundamentally believe that there's a connectedness with regard to those avenues. I tell you right now, I'm a man of faith. I believe in church, and I was raised that way. And so I believe that church is a sacred space. But I also, Gary, I believe that classrooms are a sacred space also. I think that magic happens within classrooms. I think that light bulbs go on, not off. You see purpose and passion and ability. You see futures in classrooms with great faculty, great teachers. Listen, I should share this with you, but I love the faculty at the universities, but without pre-K-12 teachers, there are no university faculty. Teachers are to be honored, to be respected, to be honed in on. These individuals have access to our children, our greatest resource the nation can ever produce. And so we need to take a moment to give them thanks each and every day for the work that they do to serve our children. I believe in teaching. I believe in classrooms. I really do. You can't feel their passion. Wake up, everybody.
That's good. Well, what's next for USI? You've got a lot going on there. You mentioned the big appropriation from the state that's enabled some building on campus. You've got a great, pretty campus down there. What's next for USI?
One of the things I'm excited about, I mentioned this earlier about my own background, but I'm really working hard with our faculty and with other members of the community on building a greater agricultural opportunity for USI.
Interesting.
We're surrounded by farms everywhere.
Yeah.
Bring the intellectual development and know-how for farmers to continue to advance their craft is something I find to be extremely important. I think that quite often people think, about crops and they think about livestock only. But agriculture is an industry that this nation is forever dependent on. Our history as well as our future. Each and every day we eat. We're eating plant-based or either animal-based products. How do we market this? How do we produce it? How do we sustain it? How do we provide the best caloric intake on a daily basis? This is all agriculture. So finding ways in which we can develop something here uniquely at USI in support of the state is something I'm very, very much interested in.
And as I think probably know, that's certainly a focus of the state. Agri-Novus, Indiana, a number of universities, obviously Purdue, the best example, but universities really beginning to engage more in that area. Can that be a focus area? That be a shining star, if you will, potentially for USI down the road?
Without question. And what you're talking about is application, it's kind of integrated practice-based work and return on investment. Purdue University is our shining star with regard to agriculture when it comes to this hardcore research kinds of, input and output. USI, we are a teaching applied research institution. And so finding ways in which we can, keep within our lane and serve and even partner with Purdue and other kinds of agricultural based entities across the state is something that I believe USI will do very effectively. We are nimble, we are lean, we can pivot quickly and easily, and we want to serve.
Dr. Ron Rochon, the president of the University of Southern Indiana. It's been a real treat to catch up with you. Your passion is obvious and infectious, and I know it's leading to even more great things there in Southwest Indiana. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Listen, let me just say thank you so much to you personally. You are an amazing interviewer. You are fun to talk to, and I love being in your space, sir. Thanks for this invitation. And USI, on behalf of this university, we all thank you as well for your work.
That's great. And we're going to follow the Screaming Eagles, too, in Division I competition. So we'll be rooting for you there, too, as well.
Go Screaming Eagles.
That's great. Dr. Ron Rochon, the president of the University of Southern Indiana, my guest this week on the Business and Beyond podcast. We are a weekly conversation with achievers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. And you can download all of our episodes and get Indiana business news 24/7. All you have to do is go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. I'm Gary Dick. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.